The archaeological site on Kepler 442b had been dead for 3 million years. At least, that's what the Galactic Council's best xenoarchaeologists had determined after decades of fruitless excavation. The Vorathai ruins stretched across the planet's northern continent like the fossilized remains of some great beast, silent and inert despite every attempt to coax life from its ancient systems. Dr. Zyxera, a crystalline being whose translucent form refracted the pale light of Kepler 442b's star, stood before the massive doorway that had confounded her team for 17 standard years. Behind her, representatives from 4 different species waited with varying degrees of patience. The Cthreen delegates chittered nervously, their insectoid mandibles clicking in a rhythm that betrayed their frustration. The Ullman observer, a gaseous entity contained within a sophisticated environmental suit, simply hovered in contemplative silence. Perhaps, Zyxera said, her voice resonating through her crystalline structure, we should acknowledge that some mysteries are meant to remain unsolved. It was then that Bruno Chen walked into the chamber. He wasn't supposed to be there. Bruno was a human cargo specialist, hired to transport equipment for the expedition. His job was loading crates and maintaining inventory, not exploring ancient alien ruins. But Evangeline Rodriguez, the human cultural liaison assigned to the dig, had convinced him to take a quick tour during his break. Come on, Evangeline had said, her dark eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. When else are you going to see a 3 million-year-old alien temple? Bruno had shrugged and followed her, datapad still in hand, his mind half focused on the supply requisition he'd been reviewing. He was tired, his worn boots scuffing against the polished floor as he entered the main chamber behind Evangeline. The moment his foot crossed the threshold, everything changed. The doorway exploded with light. Not the harsh glare of malfunction, but a warm, pulsing luminescence that seemed almost organic. Zyxera stumbled backward, her crystalline body chiming in alarm. The Cthreen scattered, their wings buzzing frantically. Throughout the entire structure, systems that had lain dormant since the extinction of the Vorathai civilization suddenly roared to life. What did you do? Zyxera demanded, though her tone carried more wonder than accusation. Bruno raised his hands defensively. Nothing. I just walked in. Evangeline grabbed his arm, her scientific training overriding her shock. Don't move. Something about you triggered this. The walls around them transformed. What had appeared to be simple stone was now alive with flowing scripts and holographic projections. Images materialized in the air, star charts, mathematical equations, and most eerily, scenes of the Vorathai themselves. They had been bipedal, like humans, though taller and more elegant, with elongated limbs and luminous skin that seemed to glow from within. That a voice emerged from everywhere and nowhere, speaking in a language that shouldn't have been comprehensible to anyone. Yet somehow, everyone in the chamber understood it perfectly. Genetic marker confirmed. Welcome, descendants. Zyxera's entire form brightened with realization. Descendants? But that's impossible. Humans evolved on Earth, hundreds of thousands of light years from here. The Relic's voice continued, ignoring her protest. The Vorathai seeded 93 worlds before the Great Silence. You are products of genetic line Theta 7, modified for survival on a distant world designated Earth. The activation protocols were encoded into your very DNA, waiting for the day you would reach the stars and find your way home. Bruno felt Evangeline's grip tighten on his arm. Are you saying, she breathed, that humans are descended from the Vorathai? Not descended, the Relic corrected. Engineered. When we foresaw our extinction, we sent forth our legacy in biological vessels designed to adapt, evolve, and ultimately return. You carry within you the key to reawakening what we left behind. The chamber's center opened, revealing a crystalline sphere that pulsed with the same warm light that had greeted Bruno's arrival. Around it, a holographic interface materialized, covered in symbols that seemed to shift and reorganize themselves as Bruno approached. The human genome carries dormant sequences, the Relic explained. Switches that activate in the presence of Vorathai technology. Your people were created to be the inheritors of our civilization, to preserve our knowledge until you had evolved sufficiently to use it wisely. Zyxera moved closer, her scientific curiosity overwhelming her shock. This changes everything we know about human evolution, about galactic history itself. Bruno stared at the sphere, then at his own hands, as if seeing them for the first time. So what happens now? Now, the relic said, you choose. The Vorathai left behind the accumulated knowledge of a civilization that spanned 10,000 years and 100 worlds. Medical advances that could extend lifespans indefinitely. Energy sources that could power your species for millennia. Weapons that could make you invincible. It is all here, waiting. The question is whether humanity is ready for such responsibility. Evangeline stepped forward, positioning herself beside Bruno. And if we're not ready, then walk away. The relic responded simply. The locks will reset. The knowledge will wait for another generation, or another 100 generations, until humanity has proven itself worthy of the Vorathai legacy. The chamber fell silent except for the gentle hum of ancient systems finally awakened. Bruno looked at Evangeline, then at the assembled aliens who had spent decades trying to unlock secrets that had been waiting, all along, for a human touch. I think, he said slowly, we're going to need a bigger team. Sarah's crystalline laughter chimed through the chamber. For the first time in 17 years, the dead civilization spoke. And it spoke to humanity, its long-lost children, finally come home.